Hey, I'm back. Jack is back. Listen, I'm doing this video because I noticed that among ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, there is a huge challenge with moving forward. And I want to discuss something with you that most ex-Jehovah's Witnesses really struggle with, and they don't want to admit it. And it was a hard thing to swallow for me as well. But the moment we actually make this shift in our mind, we move forward like no other time. And without it, we're stuck. Stay with me, and I hope somebody joins. I'm going to put a link in the comments so you can join the discussion if you choose to. What is it? Well, if you saw the title of this talk, is basically taking responsibility. Who will take the responsibility for the mistakes that the Jehovah's Witnesses are making? It's so many of them. When you do the study, when you do the deeper study of the doctrines, what Jehovah's Witnesses are teaching, what they do, you will find things that will blow your mind. And one of the things is a story about Beth Sarim. Recently, I was in San Diego, and I went to visit the place. Beth Sarim is a house of princes. So back in the day, in 1929, when Great Depression basically was breaking out in the United States, the Watchtower decided, which was basically Rutherford, the president, to build a house for princes, build a house for people who will be resurrected, and they will carry them through the Armageddon into the new system. Now, of course, that didn't happen. And of course, the Watchtower didn't know what to do with this problem. So after Rutherford died, they basically sold it. And they kept hush about it. You can just imagine how people felt building this place, donating their time and energy and money into making something that didn't come true. And you might think, are they going to apologize? Are they going to return the money? Are they going to sell the property, take the money and give the money back to the people who worked hard over there? No. Are they going to apologize? No. See, Jehovah's Witnesses as an organization, they really have a hard time doing one thing, and that's taking responsibility for their mistakes. As a matter of fact, there was one priest who came into our home when we were just children. And my father was a Catholic, so he found this priest who was schooled, who was specially trained for Jehovah's Witnesses. So my dad wanted to save his children, save his family, and he invited this priest over. Then this priest read one of our brochures, and he said this: "It's interesting what's here, but what I find it strange is that not one article in any of your books is signed. You don't know who wrote it. So if I see, let's say, a mistake, or I believe that there was something misquoted or misrepresented, I would like to speak with the person who wrote this article and show him basically where the challenge, where the mistake is, so he can correct it." And he says, none of your books are signed. See, the thing is, Jehovah's Witnesses don't sign their books. They don't sign their magazines. They don't sign their articles. Why? Because they don't want a personal responsibility. They say, oh, we don't want to glorify the specific person. And yes, they have this the shows right now that they make on TV, and they're telling right away, the name and the position. Oh, this is a governing body person, right? So it's not about that. It's the fact that they don't want to take responsibility for what they're saying. So the responsibility falls automatically on what? On the organization. If the organization is as a whole, then if we find a challenge with it, we can't pinpoint to a specific person. Now, the problem with the organization usually is the fact that if they make a mistake, they would never apologize for it, no matter how much damage it caused, no matter how many lives have been altered or changed. They will never take that responsibility. Oh, we did something wrong. See, a true leader, as somebody who truly cares about people, when they lead and they see that their decision caused people harm. I don't care how good intended. I don't care if they believed that what they were doing it was right. But the moment you realize that you've made a mistake and that mistake caused somebody else's harm, the first thing you do is you apologize. You acknowledge that it took place, that it shouldn't have taken place, but it did. You apologize to the person that was damaged, whatever the damage was. And then the right thing to do is to compensate, offer compensation for the damage as much as you possibly can in order to maybe not, you can't go back in time, but at least alleviate the pain. And unfortunately, Watchtower is notorious for not only not taking responsibility, they will never apologize and forget about compensating anybody out of their own will. Unless the government says you must do this or you're going to lose your status as a religion, then they're like, okay, fine, fine. That's basically what happened in Australia with their Australian Royal Commission. If you followed that chain of events, you'll see that Watchtower was basically at the beginning it's like, no, we're not apologizing, we're not compensating, and then the government pushed them and they're like, okay, fine. But they would never do it out of their own will, even though they could see the damage that they have caused. I think that another example of it was 1975, where they actually preached and taught and knew that people were buying or selling houses or not going to schools, or they were encouraging people to quit schools because the end of the world is coming. And later on, when the end of the world didn't come, they blamed it on the people. They just shoved the responsibility on the regular publishers, saying, oh, we never said the end will come. It was just the publishers who came up with this idea. It was their responsibility, right? And I think a lot of people woke up during that time and realized, oh my gosh, not only I was lied to, but then I was blamed for their mistake, and that's really a hard pill to swallow. So that's part of the real challenge being a witness, is when you see that they have made the mistakes, they don't want to take responsibility for their mistakes. Even if they see there is a problem with teachings or doctrines, they just simply switch them to a new light. And that's it. This is a better understanding. And that's just a sign that Holy Spirit was working with us, and voila, new understanding. You know what? When you are a witness and you're waking up from the whole process of thinking, it's a hard pill to swallow, because when you are in that environment of constantly blaming somebody else, it is also engraved in you. And when you leave, you feel like this is a time to blame. They stole my life. They just basically, lied to me. This whole thing is a scam. And as long as it's a scam, then I have somebody else to blame. It's not my fault. I'm a victim here. And this victimhood becomes a really challenging, because people feel stuck. People feel like, oh, this is something that happened to them, and there is nothing they can do to go back in time. It's like, oh, if I just knew when I was young, I would have gotten married with the person who was worldly, and I had a crush on them, and life would have been so different. I would have gotten to school and educated myself differently. I would have started this business. I would have buy a house. I would invest for my retirement. Whatever it was that you have not done because of those teachings and beliefs, you now tend to blame the organization that they have made you the way you are. Well, here's the tough pill to swallow. But before I go in there, I want you to imagine that one of your friends, that somebody you know very well, tells you, listen, I know where there's gold. A real gold, man. A real gold. Grab a shovel, grab a pick. We're going to go and dig. And you believe them. They gave you some map. They gave you some calculations. They gave you probabilities of where the gold might be. And off we go to dig for the gold. And you're digging and digging and digging. And the person's digging right next to you. And you both digging. And you're spending a lot of time digging. And then very soon you see other people asking, like, what are you guys doing? And like, you know what? We're digging. We're digging for gold. And you invite them in and like, come, please dig with us. And they're digging with you. And now you convinced a whole bunch of people to dig the huge hole. And maybe there's a mine. So just inviting more and more people to dig for the gold. At one point, you're starting questioning. You're like, you know what? As much as I love the guy who told me about this gold, as much as I love to have this community now that digs for the gold, as much as I like the environment and the work ethic that people have, as much as I love being here, I don't actually have much of friends outside of this mine that we created. I don't think there's gold. I started questioning, should I keep digging? And then you go to your friends and like, of course we gotta keep digging. It gives us hope. I mean, where are you gonna go? You find something better? There is no better place to dig for gold. This is the only one that will give you the reward. Everything else is just dirt. This is the best place. Plus, we work here safely, and you have environment, and you have people that care about you. Stay here. If you leave, you're gonna be outside of us. This is our tribe. This is where we dig for gold. And then you say, you know what? There is no gold. Stop digging. It's madness. There is nothing here but dirt. And people don't like that. They have so much invested into this digging that they kick you out of the mine. And then you're standing there and you're watching. And you could blame the guy who talked you into this digging. You could stand there and look at them and try to pull them out, and only hatred will begin. But the truth is, you could stop. You could stop yourself and say, you know what? These people are still there. They're still digging. Would you blame them for the fact that you were digging if they're still in a hole? Most likely not, because you will realize, hey, these people, maybe they believe in what they're doing. They're still there. They're still working hard. And yet, at the end, there is no reward. They're delusional. You know this now. But the more you're trying to convince them, the more anger and division starts happening. So they kicked you out of the mine. Now, you could stand on top of it and you can keep crying that you're the victim here, or you can start living your life. That's a story of Jehovah's Witnesses who are leaving. And when they leave, they're trying to blame the governing body. They're trying to blame the elders. They're trying to blame the people who maybe brought them into the organization. But the truth is, those who brought you in, they believed it too. They are there working still, maybe until today. The governing body, many of you are just blaming governing body that they're certain liars and they're twisting things and whatever. Fine. I don't know. I never talked to them to actually come to the conclusion that they're lying. I think they're very deeply delusional. But they're still there. They're still there working in that mind, in that dirt, hoping that they're going to get something out of it. But it's delusional. Should I still live my life blaming them that they took away my life? I tell you what is the most important shift that happened to me, and I hope that it happens to many of you. It's the fact that I took responsibility for my life. Because I got into this mode of blaming too. For a short period of time, I was blaming, of course. They talked me into it. They promised me the paradise. They told me about the one generation from 1914. They were spreading the false doctrines. They convinced me that this is true. It was all them. Well, let me tell you something. If you're a Catholic, they will bring you to the church as a baby and they will baptize you whether you want it or not. That's called forcing somebody to be a certain religion. Jehovah's Witnesses don't baptize babies. They actually want to make sure that before you get baptized, you understand what it means to be a Jehovah's Witness. They will test you. They will make sure you first go door to door so you get the feeling of the responsibility that is attached with being a witness. You have to prove to them that you're going to go to the meetings, and most of the time they want to see your hand up, that it will require you to participate in the meetings. It will require for you to go door to door and try to spread the information that they're teaching. They will test you by 3 different people that ask close to 200 questions to make sure that you know. And it's not going to be over a day or two. It will be a month, minimum like 6 months to a year process, and that's quick to become a witness. You might say, hey, Jack, I was so young when I got baptized. I was 13, 14, 15 years old when I got baptized. Who knows at that age what it means to be a witness? Well, not only you knew quite a bit, because to be honest, at my age, when I was a 13 or 14-year-old, I knew a lot more about the Bible, about witnesses, about Catholics and other religions than most people who were not witnesses. They didn't know much about their own religion. We had a much deeper understanding what it means to be a witness. We could answer most of the questions that people would ask us, at least the basic knowledge we had. But even if you made the decision of being a witness very young, the truth is, the moment you started living on your own, outside of your parents' home with all the influence and stuff, the moment you started living as an adult, you lived as a witness every day. So your decision to be a witness didn't stop only at the day of your baptism. It kept on going. And every time you told somebody, I am a Jehovah's Witness, every time you went to the Kingdom Hall, every time you went to service, every time you raised your hand, every time somebody asked you, who are you? And you said, I am one of Jehovah's Witnesses, that was your decision to be a witness, because you believed it more. You tried to bring other people. Every time you went to service, you tried to bring other people in. Were you lying? Were you deceiving people? Many of you would say, no, 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 no. I believed it, therefore I didn't lie to people. If you believe one thing and then you teach something else, then you're lying. And I know you're not going to like it, but PIMOs are the biggest liars here. People who are physically in and mentally out. And I get it. I was a PIMO for many years because I was trying to wake up my wife and save them from this. Wanted to save my family. And I get it. Believe me, I get why. But those are actually the only ones who are lying, because they're going to the Kingdom Hall pretending that they believe it. If somebody asks them, many of them are changing the subject or lying about it. They actually go to service, even very little, representing Jehovah's Witnesses, knowing very well that if they give the Watchtower or magazine or anything, it could cause somebody to join the religion, even though they don't no longer believe in it. So I don't get. I'm not picking on PIMOs, because I was one of them. I know how hard it is to leave, but there is a moment when inside you feel it becomes too heavy. You feel like crap. You feel like, you know what? I'm a hypocrite. I remember it happened to me while I was on the platform. I was picking and choosing which talks I could give and which ones I couldn't. And while I'm on the platform, I'm reading the article, and I read it obviously before I prepared for it, but it didn't click when I was preparing. And I realized, oh, there's a scripture here quoted from Hebrews, and I read the paragraph, and the paragraph says that our salvation depends on the obedience to the governing body and the organization. And I remember that the scripture says nothing about the organization. It was all about our salvation is dependent on our faith in Jesus. And I'm like, there's two different beliefs here. That what am I supposed to teach? What's in the article or what's in the Bible? And I felt this cognitive dissonance, and I'm like, I can't do this no more. And I stopped. I didn't stop being a Jehovah's Witness. I stopped talking about it. I stopped being an elder. I stopped going to service. I just went to the Kingdom Hall simply to support my wife and kids, hoping that one day that thing will stop. But believe me, that is not an easy thing to do. But I wanted to mention this because very often ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, when they leave, they have a really hard time moving forward. And the reason why they have such a hard time moving forward because they were never taught to take responsibility for their own life. Now, I'll repeat this again because this is a key to changing and shaping your life. We were never taught to take responsibility for our own decisions. It was always somebody else's. If you are a sheep in the organization, there was no such thing as I came up with this idea and I stick by it. There's no such thing as this is my vision for my life and that's how I'm going to go for it. No, it was given to us. The life was given to us. This vision was given to us. The moral code and conduct and responsibilities were given to us. And we simply followed. So we were never taught as an adult people to take responsibility for our own actions. See, when you're a child, first your parents take responsibility over you because you don't know any better. You're a child. You need to be taught. And then we hit this kind of teenage area where we think we know better. we don't have the experience, but now we're getting smarter. And now our peer group is telling us certain things, and we think we can, do something behind our parents' back. And the parents are saying, "No, I will not let you date this person." And then you're like, "Oh yeah, okay, fine." Sure, you won't let me. It becomes even more attractive, right? When they tell you you're not allowed to. So we go through this phase of teenage years when we start questioning authority. And then when you in your 20s, you're supposed to find your path, your way, grow up, and become an adult. The problem is when you are a JW, the mindset is you're still like a child. You're still like a child because your parents, you got God the Father, an organization, they used to call it the mother, and you are this sheep, this child, and they need to tell you everything, and you're supposed to follow everything that they tell you. So you never go through the phase of, oh, you know what? Maybe I know better. Maybe I have my own ideas. Maybe I'm gonna choose what I'm gonna do in life. No, you can't choose. You can't choose one thing. You can't choose 1%. You cannot choose, oh, you know what? I agree with everything GW say, but I'm gonna maybe celebrate birthdays. That's just this one thing. No, nothing, everything I agree, just birthdays. I never understood their position on this. I don't think it's harmful to anybody, so that's what I'm gonna do. No, you can't. It's everything or nothing. If you're a Catholic and they tell you, I don't know, that you're not supposed to use contraception, who cares? The majority of them use anyways. It's your choice what you're gonna pick and choose from the teachings of the Catholic Church, because you're an adult. Not obviously everybody, but majority of people will basically choose what they hear and adopt this in their life when they see the benefits of it. And if they don't see the benefits of it, they ignore it. Not when you're a JW. Not when you're a JW, you take everything for what it is. You think they know better. You think that if you're disagreeing with this, something's wrong with you. You got to follow this, and worse yet, you got to teach it. And when you teach something, you represent it, because there's a huge difference between going to church, listening to what the priest has to say, disagreeing with it, and going home doing your own thing, than when you're a priest. See, when you're a priest and you got to go out there and say those things for others, you better walk your talk. Otherwise, people will find you a hypocrite. But with JWs, everybody is a teacher, without exception. You will not be accepted as a JW unless you're a teacher. So when you become a teacher, you represent the teachings. This is why it's so difficult for them. And that's why it's such a challenge to break free from this. But because we were never taught responsibility, this is an excellent moment to grow up. To grow up and say, you know what? I will take responsibility for my life. I decided to get baptized. Nobody pushed me into the swimming pool. Nobody put a gun into my head. It was my decision based on the knowledge and the experience that I had back then. I believed it was the best decision for my life at that time. And that's why I chose to be a witness. They didn't force me to be a witness. I chose to be a witness. I chose to go to the Kingdom Hall. I chose to go to service. I chose maybe not to educate myself. I chose because it was your choice. Don't forget that we're witnesses who chose to be in concentration camps, and they would not give up their faith. It was their choice. Somebody say, "Wow, they forced me." No, they did not force you. There were people who had a gun to their heads and they were told, "Deny your faith or you're getting a bullet." And they said, "You know what? Pull the trigger." That is a tough choice. That I admire people who have the guts to say, "You know what? You are not going to. I rather die than to live under your regime." That's tough. But for us, for majority of us, that didn't happen. For literally thousands of years, you open any history book, you will see how people were tortured, killed, heads cut off, burned on the stake simply for reading the Bible, disagreeing with the church. That's not the reality today. What is it they're going to do to us? They're going to say, "Hey, if you leave this organization, some people might not talk to you." And anything else? No. No, that's where it ends. Nobody will kill you. Nobody will put you in jail. Nobody will cut off your heads. Nobody will burn you on the stake. None of that. That reality is a long time gone. And I'm very grateful that we're living in the last days. No, we're not living in the last day. We're living in amazing time in the history of humankind where you and me, we can say, "Hey, you know what? I disagree with politicians. I disagree with church. I disagree with this political party." And you won't be thrown into prison. You won't be killed. You won't be silenced. You and me can even go on public, and we have ability to connect with a whole bunch of strangers all across the world and state our opinion because we have a freedom of speech, something that was not possible to get ever in the history of humankind. Kings and pharaohs did not have the abilities that we have today. They did not have a better life than we have today. Their homes, their way we can communicate, the way we can travel, the comfort of our homes that we have today, it's a billion times better than kings and pharaohs that had in the past. We should never forget that. But going back to the subject, when we realize that it was our choice, that it was our responsibility, what we do in our life, the power comes back to us. Why? Because when we blaming somebody else, then all the power is in somebody else's hands. Blame is lame. Remember, blame is lame. If you are shifting your focus from yourself as this was my responsibility, this was my life, I decided those things and I chose this way, and now I know better, so I'm going away from those things, then you have the power. If you're playing a victim, then nothing will change. Whatever you're not changing, you're choosing. Whatever you're not changing, you are choosing. You could be in a relationship, you could be married to somebody who's super abusive. I've seen many of those. And I'm like, why are you allowing this? Like, wow, where am I gonna go? Some people feel stuck. And then other people are like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. I remember my own mother. She was like, we live in a small village. It was, I didn't know anyone who was divorced. There was no such thing. There was no divorces whatsoever. If you're married to this person, you die with that person. My mother, she's a witness, and her husband is a Catholic, 4 kids. And at one point, she couldn't take it anymore, and she says, "I'm leaving. I'm out of this relationship." And she left. And it was super tough for her. She had a really hard time. So I'm seeing her and I'm seeing other people stuck in like, oh, you know what? It's impossible because somebody will not talk to me. Oh my gosh. You take responsibility for your life. You have to become a leader of your life. Otherwise, you will always be a sheep. You will always be a victim of these people. They're in it still. They're still working on it. They're still going to service. They're still preaching. They're still reading the magazines. They're still watching the broadcasts. They're still going to all the meetings, analyzing every single word and what's in this watchtower, what is that watchtower, preparing and reading all the paragraphs, the same topics over and over. They're still digging in that mine. You're gonna blame them? Even if it was true that they lied to you, that they knew it wasn't true, but they spread this and you believed it, blaming will not help you. It will not help you to move. You take charge, you take responsibility for your life, and you move away from this and you start creating your own vision. You start creating your own life when you see a path where you want to be. I don't care what happened to you in the past. You take the past to learn from it, what mistakes you have made. Be happy that you woke up, because at least you don't waste the rest of your life digging a hole looking for gold that it's not there. I know people who woke up in their 70s and they're ecstatic. Of course, they would wish to wake up earlier, but they're not sitting there and crying, I just wasted 7 years of my life. No, they're like, I'm so glad that even if I have a decade, at least in that decade, I'm free. I'm doing what I want. I remember I had this discussion with Eric Wilson. Many of you know Eric Wilson. And he woke up quite late in his life, and he woke up around the same time like me. And I asked him, like, but don't you feel regret, like over 40 years being an elder and most of your life and everything that you have done for this organization, and you served in another country, and like all your life was with JWs, and not one ounce of regret. He says, no, I had to go through this, but now I'm free and I'm happy that no matter what it is, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever the life will give me, I live free. I get to do what I love to do, and I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing today. And if you watch him, he helped quite a bit of people if I was not a witness before. So he actually turned this into a mission in his life that gave him something that it's much deeper than just, oh man, it's such a waste. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I also find it so rewarding to see that, you know what, the stuff that happened to me, it happened actually for me. It didn't happen to me, it happened for me. And when I made that shift, I realized that experience happened for me so I can help others. And when the moment you see that your knowledge, your experience, your pain can help to improve the quality of life for somebody else, everything shifts. Everything shifts. But you got to take responsibility for yourself. That it was your decision to do this. It was your decision to get baptized. It was your decision to continue being a witness during your adult life. And it was your decision to leave. And it's your decision to do something with the past that you have, with the knowledge and skills that you have. Because every day there's a witness waking up. Every day there's somebody in the world that is waking up, questioning, and they're like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to find somebody, if I'm going to have somebody who will understand me. Am I crazy? Is it the only, I'm the only one that thinks this way? And they're going to find you. And you're going to be able to say, I completely understand. I know what you're going through. I know how it feels. You're not alone. Don't worry. There is a path. I know you can't see it yet, but there is a path to a much better life. You're going to give up your spiritual family. You're going to replace it with a chosen family. You're going to choose who is your friend. You're not going to rely on somebody else telling you, oh, this is your group, this is your tribe, and whether you like them or not, they have to be your friend. And if you try to look for people outside of this tribe, they're going to criticize you for it. No, you take responsibility for who is in your life, who is your friend, what is it that you do, who you spend time with, what you find to be good, bad, moral, immoral, and so on. It is up to you. But if you don't do it, then you're going to just most likely jump from one cult to another. And you will not even realize it. A lot of people jump from one cult to another. And it's not, they don't even jump to another group necessarily. They just jumped to another mindset. Another mindset of it could be conspiracy theorists, it could be people who have very strong political views and they just hate people who have a different point of view, and it can become a really, the black and white thinking, us versus them. It can be very deeply rooted in there. You take responsibility for your life, you take charge of your life, you come out of this experience in a much better way. Okay, that's all what I have for you guys. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments. If you want to join me in this discussion on you want to share something, please, there is a link in the comment. It's just a matter of clicking and joining. Okay, I'm gonna look. I see hello Jack. That's all what I see. Okay, I got my glasses. Faded in San Diego. I was just there. I don't know who you are. I don't know. Maybe I even know you. San Diego is a beautiful place. I absolutely love it. I don't blame Rutherford for building that house in San Diego because the winters in San Diego are amazing. I love the coast. I love the beach. I love the fact that people in their 70s get up early in the morning and they go surfing. I love that fact, to see that people exercise early in the morning. That's extraordinary. Place is absolutely gorgeous. Oh, we met at Steph's. Okay, so when I was there in San Diego has an amazing support group. If you're nearby San Diego, you got to connect with these people. There's such an amazing people there. Yeah, if you find, like, we have a group here in Toronto. San Diego has a very nice group. Find people who will understand you, but at the same time, don't just stay there and cry about your life. Move forward together. Talk about what you're going to do in the future. Talk about your dreams. Talk about the things that you want to accomplish in your life. Fine, we connect. And you know what? I tell you what, I have not found yet another group of people who would connect as quickly as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. I have not seen it. Maybe, obviously, there are many, but I haven't seen it anywhere else. For some odd reason, the moment we find out that somebody is an ex-Jehovah's Witness, we feel joy and we feel connected. We feel like there is something more than just, oh, here's a stranger, let me find out who he is. No, there's like an instant connection, and people are so authentic. They're willing to share their story. They're willing to express, sometimes very deep and very intimate part of themselves and their life, almost instantly with the first conversation. And it's extraordinary to see. I have not seen it anywhere else. It's like you got to break the ice, you got to get to know people, and then if it's at work or with anybody else, it takes time. But with ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, it's like almost instant. You feel this connection, which is fantastic. Yeah, Faded in San Diego said, if you're PIMO, maybe I'll put this up. If you're a PIMO, give the meetups a try. If you don't like it, then you're free to choose your own path. When I started going to meetups in Toronto, I didn't like it at first. I'll be honest. Well, it was early for me because I was just waking up, and then people were quite negative, talking, quite strongly about the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I was just waking up. It was hard for me to listen what they were saying because they're quite critical. But later on, we shifted the meetups. We shifted into something very positive, and we became friends, and we planned trips together. We get together. We went bowling. We went on vacations. We went on the cruises. We went play pool. We did whole bunch of crazy stuff together, and it brought us into a very close bond. You can find true friends. It doesn't mean you have to stay friends with them for the rest of your life, but they can be a quite great resource for you to go through a challenge. Okay, if no more questions, nobody wants to join me, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.